Listen on your phone when you get out of the car. Anywhere you take your phone, you can take Howard Stern, NFL Radio, and commercial-free music channels from nearly every genre. Channels vary by subscription plan. You never have to miss your favorite SiriusXM programs or commercial-free music. Find the SiriusXM app in the App Store or call 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/app to find out more. There's a channel that explodes with pretty guitar texture and perfect pop melodies. SiriusXM Pop Rocks serves up those undeniable 90s anthems, 2K hits, and today's fresh pop finds. Pop Rocks. Turn it up now on Channel 6 and anytime in the all-new SiriusXM app. To hear Pop Rocks, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or head to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
SiriusXM.
Each game presents different challenges. Whenever your number is called, just be ready to do it.
It's Jason Tatum's Celtics.
Tatum blows by McDermott, muscles it up and in, scoring a foul.
Versus Luka Doncic and the Mavericks.
Luka between his legs, stepping back for the win. He got it.
It's Game 1, Thursday night at 8:30 Eastern on NBA Radio Channel 86. And listen to the hometown announcers on your radio and the all-new SiriusXM app.
Amazing moments happen so much at SiriusXM. We want you to see them. SiriusXM Video lets you watch your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SiriusXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artists you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
You gotta get this. There you go now.
I think every...
Oh, what did I say? You gotta get this. You gotta get this.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018148688.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, of the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. According to me, the people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! You know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, I'll tell you, I was nominated neighborhood spokesperson. I'm trying to bring people together, and some people don't want to be coming together. Especially when it's 100 degrees in Dipner Hills, California, all fair level, where I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sent you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide, if that makes sense to you. I want to say with the Big C Sports Podcast, you can find me on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. It's streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Really do appreciate that. I want to say with Big C Sports Podcast, We got the NBA basketball tipping off soon. We got the Boston Celtics and the good old boys from Texas. I like calling them the Dallas Mavericks. And they're trying to go into Boston and do something that they've only done one time in their history. That's winning the NBA championship. We will see how that goes. At the same time, if you like ice, you do need some ice out here in Dimdale Hills, California. We have the Edmonton Oilers. They are taking on the good old boys from Florida, the Florida Panthers in the NHL, chasing for Lord Stanley's Cup. But I do know, no matter what it looks like, you gotta always know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. May like this strike. I got some more talk about reparations, and it's closer and closer to where more people are starting to say that makes more sense than it does not make sense, if that makes sense to you. So I just want to make sure that I do my part with Big C Sports Podcast. I want to bring it all together. I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives. I know I could use more laughter, especially when it's 100 degrees in Dimdale Hills, California. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. The storytelling. I even do the play-by-play, as you're going to hear coming up in NBA basketball. Jason Tatum for 3, yes! Get the hole in your life. Kyrie Irving for 3, yes! Get the hole in your life. The great Luka Doncic for 3, yes! Get in the hole in your life. Jaylen Brown for 3, yes! Get in the hole in your life. I love NBA basketball. It's exciting. It's fast-paced. NHL hockey is good too, but in my mind, it just doesn't sing. It doesn't have the same type of entertainment that basketball has. Basketball, you have scores that are like 115 to 105. You have 121 to 118. In hockey, you may have 4-3 or 5-4, and it's just not as exciting in my opinion. But that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. The show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City and streaming on 4 TV platforms like Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. And then, not only that, I never missed a show since creating Big C Sports with the crew back in the days at Salem Media. And that's one of the things I really do appreciate. You always have times where you can say, you know what, I don't feel like doing something today. And then you do it anyway. And that's what I do with Big C Sports Podcast. I'm telling you, what I also love doing is paying homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline, because a mind is experience and a mind is a terrible thing to waste. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through issues, all you got to do is try a little tenderness. Pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give it some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on, especially when somebody's leaning back. And that's what I love about being able to give out that Veterans Crisis Hotline number. I know people talk about the holidays and they want to make sure they pay homage to the veterans. And sometimes that's all we do. But if someone needs help, you can pick up the phone. And you can call and get us some help. There's a program I've been listening to, been a part of like the last month. It's on Blog Talk Radio. It's called One Gong Show with Tim and also Marvell. They do a good job of talking about reparations. But today they started talking about some things that people are dealing with in their personal relationships, like parenting and co-parenting. And people have relationships where oftentimes you may have a split family and you're trying to get together to do the right thing, not only for yourself and that relationship, but for those children as well. So that was an interesting conversation this morning. I want to make sure that people understand it's called One Gong, and it's hosted Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time by the great Tim and also the great Marvell. I love mentioning that. Give them some praise. Give them praise. I love giving them praise. I want to start today's show as I'm working on a commercial. It's more like an infomercial, Big C. Okay, more like an infomercial, Big C. At the same time, somebody says, Big C, who's that guy that always wants to be a smart aleck? I say, oh, he's my smart aleck. Everybody has one of those. They always want to tell you how they should do something, and if they were doing it, they would do it. And I've always given them plenty of opportunities to host the show. He always says, oh, man, I ain't got time to host no show. Okay, but then he always want to put his 2 cents in whenever I do something. That's all fair. And love a word. we got to have what's called a coping mechanism. And I love having a coping mechanism. And speaking of you guys that need coping mechanisms, I can't wait until I just air some things that are happening in sports. I'm learning to grow what I'm doing with Big C Sports Podcast. And oftentimes, people want to say, like Sammy Davis Jr., I did it my way. That wasn't Sammy Davis Jr., Big C, that was Frank Sinatra. See, there he goes again. Well, they both said the same thing. But I want to do things by adding in other voices. I learned in media when I was in college. I ran the media department when I was in college. And oftentimes we would plug in and play. It's what plug and play. Our TV does it when you have a commercial. Radio does it when you have a commercial. It's not always your voice. Oh my God, I just had an epiphany. Last night, I was listening to an old program that I got started when I started Big C Sports Podcast back in the day at Salem Media. It was called Epic Sports at that time. And I remember I was doing a lot of reading of commercials. And just when you think, I thought I'd forgotten about that. But I realized not only was I doing the commercials, I was doing the hosting of the show at Salem Media, and it was a wonderful thing. But things changed, and now I think I'm a lot better now than I was then because I learned to use my higher self. I've learned there's a gland in the brain called the pineal gland, and the ancients call it the third eye. And when I use the third eye, it's a lot easier to do a show because back then we had some of our partners, they had a script. They want to read the script. I don't have a script. I like to go off the cuff. I like to use my higher self. Now, I don't mind going over some information, but at the same time, at some point in time, you gotta know when to hold on, know when to fold on, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. I remember the great Jeffrey Osborne sang that song. That wasn't Jeffrey Osborne, Big C. I forgot who it was. I think it was Kenny Rogers. But they're both great entertainers. I'm sure Jeffrey said the same thing back in the day. So my sidekick, sometimes he like to put his 2 cents in. Let's see if he can follow along. You got a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. Resource Development Consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law office of George Jones. The Missing Link, Long-Term Care Solutions by the book, over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits, Medicare and You, and taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal, and other places around the country is called Medicaid, and that's all fair and loving where I like getting in my 2 cents. Your spouse and your family can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs. Find out your options, or I promise to you, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. To specialize and navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, you got to understand that protection of your assets. Woo! Without a spend down, all paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists, ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medications, medical equipment costs, and more. Have you ever dealt with somebody that dealt with skilled nursing facilities? Have you ever dealt with somebody who's dealt with medical prescriptions? How about anyone who's ever dealt with medical equipment costs? Not only that, because a lot of us go through those issues. You ever dealt with somebody who says, you need to protect your assets? you understand that? In fact, on One Gong this morning, we were talking about men that walk around with a sag look. And it's okay to pull your pants up because you don't want to go around exposing your assets, if that makes sense to you. Well, people might think, well, it's pretty bad parenting when a young man or young woman, they don't know how to pull their pants up over their assets. Well, we might say, well, that's distasteful. You kind of feel bad for the kid. And I see grown men doing it. They don't protect their assets. And sometimes they just don't know how. So not only that, I want to make sure that with the RDC and the RDC team, if you have a business, if you have a home, or if you're just trying to grow your business and grow up in the world, there are times you need to know you got to have the right protection. So with the RDC team, we make sure you understand how to protect your assets. That's important to me, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. Pull your pants up, young man. We have mentors that are part of One Gong program, and we want to leave a legacy of trying to help other people. You can't help somebody if they don't want to listen. All you can do is elucidate the magic or the matter based on your own experiences. But some people, they want to learn the hard way. What does Sammy Davis Jr. say? I want to learn the hard way. You didn't sing that song, Big C. Okay, but I'm improvising. Just play along with me. At the same time, if you tell young people, pull your pants up, because you don't want to have walking around with people saying your assets, if that makes sense to you. And I know you've seen a lot of that if you're grown folks, because some young people, they get it wrong. And then you meet the parents, and the parents are sagging. You learn you learn how they learn how to not protect their assets. Because some parents walk around sagging too. They think it's okay, and maybe it is, to each his own. But if you ever want protection of your assets, RDC team can help you do that. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. We will help you pull your pants up, if that makes sense to you. Avoid the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. They love when you don't have your asset protection. It can be between 10 to 40%. If you don't have your trust together at the end of life, the government, they have a will and a plan for you. They will have a plan for you. They'll come after all your assets, if that makes sense to you. And that's why we do the RDC commercial. Are you saying Aflac? No, Aflac's the duck. That's gap insurance. A duck can protect his own assets, let alone protect your assets, if that makes sense to you. That's why when you walk into a grocery store, you can say, excuse me, where can you find a duck? And the clerk says, oh, that's in the section where they did not learn to protect their assets, if that makes sense to you. And people take them home, cook them, and cook them for dinner. You don't want to be cooked. You don't want your assets cooked. And you don't want to have your assets unprotected in business. A one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. Not only that, you want to give that some praise for the rest of your life. But I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I have fun with this infomercial. Asset protection, a guide to protect and preserve and transfer wealth in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and the law office of George Jones. Protection insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care, avoid probate, life insurance, veterans benefits, aid and attendance. Not only that, fixed assets, your bank account, checking account, savings account, money market account, certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, fixed index annuities. But not only that, your variable assets, real estate, qualified money, IRAs, 401ks, other investments. Now, this is important for you real estate people. Avoid capital gains. For example, you buy a house for $100,000, and then 1 year later it appreciates to $1 million. People say, where can you buy that house, Big C? Well, just listen to the story first. That's called a capital gains of $900,000. You can get hit hard with some taxes on that. If the property is in a trust, you can avoid that. A lot of real estate brokers don't even know that. But you can get that to 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. Now, business owners over 3 decades of experience, attention business owners, find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. Oh, my insurance covers everything, Big C. Well, all we need is a copy of your declaration page, and we will get you the best opportunity to protect your assets. That's important. A lot of people don't know that. And then I was talking to some good old boys. It's kind of fire season right now in California, but every now and then you may have a flood. Well, we've heard stories in the past couple of years in California. It's been hit hard by fires, by wildfires, forest fires, and then also some floods, which are very uncommon in California. You know, if you don't have flood insurance, if your house is flooded, it's not covered. It's not covered by your insurance. Oh, that's not you, Big C. Call your insurance company and see if you have flood insurance if your house is ever destroyed by a flood. Washed away. It's happened in Southern California. If you don't have flood insurance, your fire casualty doesn't protect it. Now, if your house is burned down, it'll repair it and replace it at replacement cost based on your policy. Read the fine print. But just because you have fire insurance, it doesn't mean your house is protected from flooding. And so you need to know that. How come you don't know that already? That's why you call 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, and just get us a copy of your declaration page, and we'll make sure we get you the best coverage, if that makes sense to you. That's important. You got to know that, because that's how people protect themselves, and you get that with the RDC team, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, and give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. We all do. And that's why I love doing that with the RDC team. But not only that, I think I'm the only sports consultant in the universe that will tell you, get a second opinion. If you have any type of business, and someone comes to you and they say, we want you to give us your business. We want to earn your business. And that's a great thing, and oftentimes a necessary thing to ask. You want to ask them who has already endorsed them. Can you give us any references for the work you've already done? And they say, oh, why you want to see my references? I'm a trustworthy person. I'm a good person. You say, well, that's great. Do you have any references? Who can be called to verify the work you've already done? With us, we say, I'm glad you asked, because we're endorsed by Mr. George Jones. He's the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, also California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. We have the endorsement of Mr. Attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top attorneys in California when it comes to estate planning. And that's important that you ask those things. You got to ask who already endorses them. Not only that, we have the endorsement of Ms. Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. It's up to her family. We have Mr. Ray Dela Cruz, the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, RDC team. He has the endorsement of the late CalPERS top legal mind, the late Robert Carlson, that told him about the lawsuit that was going to hit CalPERS. He endorsed the RDC team. He cracked the code. He found the missing link. We have Mr. Ray Dela Cruz, the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. Not only that, you gotta know. Not only that, we have Charlton Curry, the co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project. I endorse the RDC team also as an RDC consultant. It's also helped my family. Not only that, owner of Big C Sports Podcast. I endorse the RDC team. And not only that, we have Double O, the PR committee of the National Black Wall Street Project. She endorses the RDC team, also as a consultant. Not only that, she has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. And it comes on Access Sacramento. You can Google it. When you have people that endorse a product, you want to make sure that it's not just the people selling you that product or offering you that product. It's poor marketing. We do it by the book, and that's what I love about saying the RDC team. You got to give that some praise along with Big C Sports. Give it praise, praise, praise. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You know, I want to tell you some things that are going on in California. I want to do something that I think is necessary just for me. Is California Black Media advocating for Black media in California. And when you think about the media, you think about the Associated Press, you think about other companies that are out there. But I love making sure that I edify. People say, what is California Black Media, Big C? Well, California Black Media is a trusted advocate for news. And over 30 media outlets across California facilitates communication among members of the African American press and provides unique opportunities for collaboration and coordination. That's important. More than 30 independent African American owned media outlets working to serve California's African American communities. I want to make sure that I put that out there because they have philanthropy partners, experience working with an array of organizations and agencies to address a wide range of issues in California. It's important. You can find that on Big C Sports Podcast because I love making sure that I share my success and my opportunities with other people. That's important to me. I don't want to just be about myself. And I'm trying more and more to do what it takes to add other voices onto the Big C Sports Podcast. It's not just about me because I've told you many, many times, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Now, I know we're going to get it a touchdown. Home run, 3-point play. Old man Willie, he's going all the way. I got to tell you some things I want to do because when I talk about reparations and I'm asking the White House to participate in reparations, I want you to know I'm not the only one to do it. I'm not the first one. I'm not the last one. But I want to play you something that came out of the White House, President Joe Biden, when he was asked about reparations. And not only that, you can hear the response of the White House spokesperson.
This White House is recognizing Juneteenth, which is Monday. And with that said, the issue of reparations continues to be something that is being parsed out on the other side of Pennsylvania Avenue. And with that said, the late John Conyers started with, a study. Now you have Congresswoman Bush not just asking for a study, but she's creating a resolution to push forward on reparations. What does this White House believe when it comes to this controversial issue of repairing a wrong for the descendants of Africans in this nation?
So look, as you mentioned, Juneteenth, there was a concert here yesterday, and we saw how powerful and how moved the president was by the concert and by kind of the story that was laid out through the concert about Juneteenth and how important that moment was. Opal, as you know, was here, and it's always moving to hear her and to see her. And as you know, the president signed Juneteenth to be the most recent holiday about 2 years ago. So I think that shows from that action. I'll give you more. I think that shows from that action how important the president thinks this moment is. How important he thinks that it is important to continue to lift up the African American community, and he'll continue to do so. As it relates to reparations, I saw just moments ago Cori Bush's resolution. We haven't reviewed the proposal yet. It's a new proposal, so we'll take a look at it. So I can't comment on that specifically. But the president has been really clear as it relates to reparation. He wants to see a study of reparations and studying the continuing impacts of slavery. He believes that is incredibly important.
So after the study, if the study concludes what many thought leaders and civil rights leaders have said, what next? Does the president support a payout? Because the nation is divided on this. This has been one of the biggest issues over the decades about how to repair the enslavement over generations of Africans brought to this country for free labor. So what does the president do after? What will he lean in on after a study, which is expected to basically say what many of the civil rights and black thought leaders have said? Does the president believe in a financial repair for the descendants of Africans in this nation?
So look, I will say this: we got to let the study move forward. We got to let to see what the study shows, and we got to continue to study the impact of slavery. That is something that the president believes that we need to do. So that's incredibly important. But I will say, April, and you know this, you've covered this since we've walked into this administration. When we think about the crises that we see in our country, the president called out how race inequality is a problem, right? Is a crisis for us in this moment, which is why he is taking comprehensive action. When you think about what he did on the first couple of days that he walked in, signing an executive order to make sure at the federal level that we put equity at the center of this. And it is important that we continue to do this. How do we deal with the inequalities that we see in this country? And he's trying to do that on the federal level. So let's see what the study shows. It is important to continue to study the continuing impacts, if you will, on slavery. And I think because of the president's action, he's been very clear. He's been very clear how important it is, even just looking at his economic policy, how important it is to leave no one behind, have equity at the center of everything that he's done. If you look at every piece of historic piece of legislation that has passed, that he has signed, it has equity at the center of that. And that's because the president has that in mind, right, to make sure that we have equality, to make sure that we leave no one behind. I'll keep going.
Reparations now, reparations forever. So President Biden's actually talked about reparations, and we're coming up on the Juneteenth, again, holiday that supposedly had mentioned the end of slavery as it was announced in Texas. But there are things that you just got to know that so many people, when it comes to reparations, they may not understand a lot about it because they haven't studied it the way the California Reparations Task Force has. So I want to play one more article before I do pay acknowledgement to the California Reparations Task Force. In fact, I might do it now and then play the article when I come back to it because it's so important, it's powerful, and it's about doing the right thing. Anybody, if you ever had something taken from you, or if you go to work and you were not able to benefit from your labor, or if you're the beneficiary of a life insurance policy and somebody, they steal your policy, you know you would want the repair of that. You want to be compensated for it. and you know that'd be the right thing to do. So I want to make sure I pay homage. I want to make sure I pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I want to give praise to the attorney and chair, Camila Moore. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Emmett C. Brown, the vice chair. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to, and he's actually been on the Big C Sports podcast about 2 months ago, talking about long-term care and also reparations. Really do appreciate him. And then I want to give praise to California Senator Stephen Bradford. I met him many times at his office and also at Reparations Task Force meetings. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. In fact, he was at the Senate when he had the bills passed. It was Senate Bill 1050, Senate Bill 1403, and Senate Bill 1331. And I want to make sure that I give praise to that. It was like Moses when he came down, and it was in the Bible in Exodus where God told Moses, he said, go down into Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses and Senator Bradford said, well, who do I tell him to sent me? And God said, tell him I am sent you. It was that kind of moment, because it all got passed through. I'm just really proud of what he's done, Senator Stephen Bradford. I love championing his cause. I want to also give praise to Councilmember Monica Montgomery Stepp. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Assemblymember Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving them praise, because you got to understand, these people, they need to know that someone supports their work too. And I'm one of them. See, the task force was assembled before the Senate voted and approved 1403, 1331, and 1050. They put the work together first. I want to give praise to Dr. Shell Grill. She's brilliant. Love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaka. He's brilliant. Part of the California Reparations Task Force. And I'm telling you, I love giving him praise, because we all know a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And I want to do, guys, I'm just so happy about the progress that this country is making. Now they're studying reparations in New York City, not just who's going to win a game. And once we get our professional athletes and entertainers behind it, then they'll realize it's the right thing to do. It's about good people, and good people will stand behind reparations. You don't have to always understand something, but that's why you listen and you try to learn. I want to play something else that I think is very important for you to listen to.
Well, I think it's an impossible thing to do. Why is that? Well, because you're talking about slavery. How many hundreds of years ago was that?
Actually receiving what we should have from years ago.
How likely do you feel it is that it can happen?
Very likely.
Two very different views show how varied opinions are on a controversial issue: reparations. It means repairs or making amends for a wrong or injury.
We have big harm and big repair.
Jean-Pierre Brutus is one of the country's leading voices on reparations, proposals to make amends for legally carried out wrongs against African Americans. It's not necessarily popular. The most recent comprehensive poll asking if the government should make cash payments to black Americans had 58% saying no, 24% saying that it should, and 19% not sure.
So they don't realize the direct connection that they may have to slavery.
Brutus is an attorney at the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice.
We hope that other states, particularly that had slavery in a substantive, significant manner, can look to New Jersey and say, hey, we can do that.
Why the Garden State? For enslaved Africans here in New Jersey, this is where it all began. Beginning in the 1600s, what's now the Perth Amboy Ferry Dock was a slave market where Africans were brought by the thousands and sold.
They're doing cotton, they're doing tobacco, they're doing all kinds of different crops. And so slavery was deeply entrenched.
New Jersey historian Leslie Wilson points out that Bergen County had the state's largest slave population. About 20% of all residents and 40% of the laborers in the late 1700s were enslaved. And Jersey wouldn't pass the Emancipation Proclamation abolishing slavery until the year after the Civil War ended. And even after that, says Brutus,
New Jersey was involved in redlining and other forms of segregation.
Redlining was a practice by banks that declared black neighborhoods unfit for granting mortgages. New Jersey also built blacks-only schools, and its black World War II veterans had very limited access, if at all, to generous GI Bill benefits, among other shortcomings.
And so what do? Well, that's where reparations comes in, right?
His organization leads the New Jersey Reparations Council, a group of about 45 experts in various areas, from enslavement history to modern banking, where blacks have been affected. It formed last year after New Jersey's legislature wouldn't form its own council. California's legislature did, and it recommended a formal apology and more than 100 actions to address the effects of slavery. Cash payments, though, are not recommended. But California was not officially a slave state.
New Jersey, I think, is vastly different.
Could reparations in New Jersey mean cash payments? It wouldn't be the first mass payout to try and right a wrong. The federal government paid $20,000 each to Japanese-American internment camp survivors and $122 million to Sioux tribal nations to compensate for taking their land.
And so that means that we can do it now for black people.
He says the Reparations Council is expected to recommend a variety of forms of compensation and talk more specifics about who would be eligible in the council's preliminary report at NJPAC in Newark this Juneteenth. It will make its final recommendations to the state government 1 year later.
Racial inequality was created by design, and that means that racial equality can be created by design, by policy design.
Lightning strike in your life. I love talking about reparations, and I know so many of us, we feel, some people say it's controversial. If you take your car to a mechanic and they break something, is wanting it to be repaired controversial? If a car dealer or car manufacturer manufactures a car and they have defects in that car, it's called a recall because they want you to come back and have that vehicle repaired. Is that called divisive or controversial? It's never called divisive or controversial. When a pharmaceutical company says that whatever they prescribe has been creating negative side effects by individuals taking that medication or whatever it is, they'll put a recall on that medication. If a department store or a food manufacturing company has put produce on the market that's been causing people to fall ill, they'll put a pause, a cease and desist on that food product. They'll put a recall on it. And that's not called divisive. That's not called controversial. They're just trying to do the right thing. Before I get into the sports, I'm asking the sports community to join hands with Big C Sports and singing that old Negro spiritual. We shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday. How about we overcome today, Big C? Yeah, I say, how about today that we overcome? Listen to the greatest speaker ever in the history of this country on reparations. And then we'll talk about sports.
And how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
The problem. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, They provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the complete, and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them he murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
In your life, reparations now, reparations forever. I love saying that because I believe in that as Big C Sports Podcast. I'm going to make sure I may lightning strike if they don't push for reparations. That's my story, and I'm going to always stick with it. I want to get into some NBA basketball now, and I know we have these great games coming up. I'll tell you, I'm leaning more and more to the Dallas Mavericks. But I know Boston's going to be the favorite. Either team can win this series. No matter what you think about these teams, either team can win this series. But there's something about Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. They're an amazing backcourt. Haven't seen anything like them in a long, long time. And again, everybody has their own opinion about who's going to win a game and why they should have Dallas or may lightning strike Boston or Dallas to win. Who knows? I want to just play some sound from some of these players in action.
And Edwards gets it to go.
The great Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving dropped 36 points each in their last game.
Kyrie Irving's had 2 shots, Reg, and hasn't been able to get either one of them to the rim. A 16-footer, and he was red hot to begin things. Luka Doncic, we've seen this a lot. Great ball pressure. Just watch him decelerate and stop the space he creates, Reg. Second personal foul. Doncic creeping his way inside with an easy shot. 5 of 5.
He is flowing, but since then has been fantastic.
Great shot by Kyrie Irving is pure. After struggling the other night, Doncic leaving, sidestepping, and is up high to slam it home. Assisting, saving, and Doncic has it with a lively screen, tailed by Anderson. By 8, and now by 6.
And you're right, Coach. He normally doesn't like
It's like watching poetry in motion with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic doing their thing. They both dropped 36 points in their last game to close out the Minnesota Timberwolves. And that times people say, oh, he's too cocky. Kyrie Irving's too cocky. Or Luka Doncic is too cocky. These guys are good. And you get a chance to watch them play in the NBA Finals in one of the greatest basketball cities in the United States. That's in Boston. And the Celtics have 17 NBA titles. Dallas only has 1. But this is as good a team they've ever had. The great Dirk Nowitzki, when they were playing back in the day, they got their only championship. And now this team is a lot better. Jason Kidd's doing his thing as a head coach for the Dallas Mavericks. And I'm telling you, there's something about Luka and Kyrie. They're like Jedi Knights trained long ago in a galaxy far, far away by the great Obi-Wan Kenobi. I know it's their first giddy up or their first rodeo. I said this with my Texas friends. Their first rodeo together. Now Kyrie's won a championship. with Cleveland, LeBron James. Luka hasn't even been to a final. He's there now for the first time. Jason Tatum's been there. Jaylen Brown's been there. They got beat by the Golden State Warriors. And they were knocked out last year by the Miami Heat. They didn't get to the finals. But now they're back the same group with Boston. But when you listen to Kyrie and Luka, the way they play, it's hard to imagine them not getting to the paint. It's hard to imagine them not knocking down threes, and then they have a supporting cast. I think Kyrie going to the Mavs was the best thing that could have ever happened in his career. And for someone who was watching Luka since 16, Luka started playing with grown men when he was 16 years old. And now they're finding themselves in the NBA Finals. And not only that, they're a slight underdog, which takes a lot of the pressure off of them. But for the NBA insiders, Luka and Kyrie, they're just amazing players. They're amazing players. I don't see them being at a disadvantage. The only thing that I see as a disadvantage for Dallas is they've never been to the finals, but Kyrie has. Jason Kidd has. And now Boston has had to struggle in each one of their series. They struggled against when they had the chance to beat Indiana, also Cleveland. They struggled in those series. They struggled against Miami. They lost at least a game in those series. And one of those teams have the top players out. I like what Dallas is doing. I like the fact that they go in as an underdog. And when you have Luka and Kyrie, they are so solid with the basketball. But I'm also going to bring you a listen of the Boston Celtics of the great Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
I was always like that, Reg. Number one, I was late to do it because my feeling was when we had a game, don't give it away. Doncic with it.
Well, I will say this. Great season for Minnesota, right? There was low expectations coming in, and now they're assist and finish here by Lively.
In your life, get the hole! Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, but I'm going to bring you Boston. Don't get mad at me in Boston. I'm going to show you what Boston has to offer next. In your life, hit the hole! The Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they too want to make news in the NBA Finals.
Brown fakes, fires up the three.
Because then you're a little bit late to close. Still a contest, JJ. And he's actually well positioned. Incredible shot making by Jaylen Brown.
And with the separation that was created initially on that screen, Siakam wasn't in position to make the quick foul.
Sidestep, three-pointer, puts it up.
Taunted LeBron James.
And that's something that the Celtic coaching staff talks to the referees about at halftime.
You know, this is Big C Sports Podcast. I had Jaylen Brown's father, Marcellus Brown, on my show last year, and he talked about how proud he was of his son. And I'm just telling you, this kid is grown into a young, great basketball player. But he too has Jason Tatum right there as his cohort. Boston got knocked out of the NBA Finals 2 years ago by Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and the Golden State Warriors. And I predicted that Golden State would win that series in 6 games. This game here between Dallas and Boston is not going to be a sweep because the two teams they're too evenly matched. But I'm telling you, that's one thing that I give in favor of Dallas is Kyrie Irving. They're going to be all over Kyrie Irving in Boston, and I think it's going to add some motivation to him. When you're a player, you block out all the side noise, but the media has been building this up as Kyrie returning back to Boston. but he was going through some personal issues back in the day. But there's something about this team in Dallas. There's no pressure on them. But again, Boston's a great franchise. 17 world championships, tied with the LA Lakers. If they get this, they'll be on the top of the mountain by themselves. They just lost. Bill Walton passed away, and he was a Boston Celtic that won a championship with them back in the day with Larry Bird. And I do want to be remiss, Larry, you know, there's so many great players that have been just great athletes in Boston and also in Dallas. You know, so many people. I just want to take the pause and say Larry Allen passed away, former Dallas Cowboy great. He was on vacation, so thoughts and prayers with his family. One of the greatest offensive tackles in football. But I just want to get thoughts and prayers to him. But going back, and I even believe that First Lady Michelle Obama, I hear she had a passing of her mom also. So thoughts and prayers to the Obama family as well, and First Lady Michelle Obama. So back to the NBA basketball. No matter what you think about NBA basketball, these great players are doing whatever they can to lift their team to the top of the NBA championship. I would hope that we would have them champion reparations now, reparations forever. And for people that say, oh, it's too divisive or it's controversial to talk about it, it's not. It's never controversial to talk about doing the right thing. And the NBA, I believe they're in a great spot right now to bring more inclusion. I already played a story on Big C Sports Podcast where they were asking President Biden's administration his thoughts on reparations, and his spokesperson spoke. And there's more and more people talking about things that are just right for this country. It's time to do the right thing. We all need favor, whether it comes from God or from people. But NBA basketball, when you watch how hard these athletes compete to win a game, to just win a game, imagine what it's like if players can put the same power behind doing the right thing. I'm playing a lot of highlights right now from Boston, and I've played many already from Dallas, featuring Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. But now it's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's turn. But no matter who you feel is going to win this finals, it's just a contrast in young players. Most of the great players are under 30 for both teams. Unlike the last couple of championships, these great players right now, the NBA is in great shape, and obviously the social consciousness that we have going on in our society to do the right thing in election year coming up. You got to have the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks playing around the Juneteenth holiday. Think about what it's going to mean. The majority of NBA basketball players are African American. There'll be a lot of Juneteenth celebrations all over this country. And I, for a Big C Sports Podcast, I want to be the one that leads. You're the lead follower, get out of the way. I want to lead these athletic leagues and to making sure that we embrace reparations and not just watch our athletes run up and down the court. And I hope that I get more and more people in the sports leagues like the NBA, Adam Silver, to join with that. And listening to my show last night back at Salem Media with Epic Sports Radio and reading the commercials and also doing the show, realizing that it takes people to come together. And sports is a billion-dollar industry. Boys and girls sports is a foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And I love the fact that athletics can help people push their differences aside. No one should be at odds at doing the right thing. Doing the right thing should not be anathema to our politicians, to our president. Nobody should. It's never wrong to do the right thing. And I love the fact that with the Big C Sports Podcast, I want to bring you all the thoughts and all the success and the glory of NBA sports. As I always say, in your life, get the hole, yes! I can't wait for the NBA Finals to tip off on Thursday with Big C Sports Podcast. I'll make sure I bring it to you all the time. I'm going to always mix reparations and NBA action because it's both fantastic. Now, for you good old boys that like NHL, I have not forgotten about you. I haven't forgotten about you. We also have in NHL, the Stanley Cup Final is set with the Florida Panthers set to face the Edmonton Oilers. The Panthers who lost to Las Vegas in the Cup Finals last season. They're looking for their first Stanley Cup in franchise history, while Edmonton seeking its first Cup championship since 1990. You got to realize it's called the playoff schedule for the Cons. Smythe watch, and you can get. If you want to skate on ice, we need ice in Northern California because it's 100 degrees. But the Stanley Cup Final, the Florida Panthers versus the Edmonton Oilers. When you think about it, the Panthers, they defeated the Lightning 4-1, and defeated the Bruins 4-2, and defeated the Rangers 4-2. On the Oilers, they defeated the Kings 4-1, the Canucks 4-3, and then the Dallas Stars 4-2. So it's going to tip off. First game is June 8th, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC and ESPN. All's fair in love and war. Milagna strike in your life. Get the hole. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to say what I do appreciate about the Bringing Your Big C Sports podcast. I believe in reparations. I celebrated Wollongong on Blog Talk Radio with the great Tim and great Marvell. I talked about the RDC team and asset protection. You want to protect your assets, if that makes sense. I did my commercial. It's more like an infomercial, Big C. Okay, more like an infomercial. And I love doing the infomercial, the RDC, and a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I played you clips from the White House and the talk on the Biden administration thoughts when it comes to reparations with this White House spokesperson. And then I got into the sports, what I always do with NBA basketball with the great Luka Doncic and the great Kyrie Irving and the great Jaylen Brown and the great Jason Tatum. The tip-off is going to be on Thursday. I'll do more of a preview tomorrow on Big C Sports Podcast. I love doing that, and I love bringing that information to people, and I love more and more how we bring people together. Milagna strike in your life. Get the hole. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports Podcast, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber, you can call Lyft, you can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of the car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone that someone else loves. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Don't drink and drive. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that crap on their own. If somebody loves you, they don't slap you. I only slapped you because you make me mad. If someone loves you, they don't kick you. I only kicked you because you made me mad. If someone loves you, they don't choke you out. I only choked you out because you made me mad. You get the phone, call 911. No man, woman, or child should ever have to deal with that crap. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always love saying, I love paying homage to my beautiful family, legacy on my mother's side. My great-grandparents called them Mama and Pop. My grandparents called them Muddear and Hezekiah. And then I could always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Under the Head Start program, a food program, and coaching all boys, the literally baseball team, to the championship of the universe. Always saying, rise and shine, the best person I ever met in my life. I love my mama with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then on my father's side, my grandparents, Albert Curry and Alberta Curry, they were pastors, had 3 churches, owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. I was 8 years old, walking through a hallway about 10 o'clock at night. I felt a hand on my forehead, and she said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some more cookies? I said, what are you doing up, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some more cookies? I said, cookies are baby crap. What I'm doing, Grandma, I'm going to get my reparations. But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. She said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. And now I'm on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. Love my grandparents, too. Very, very good people. And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying develop your mind to its highest extent. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. A voracious reader, always saying go forward. Love God with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy, always trust God. Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Always tell you that you can be anything you want to be. Daisy said at the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast back at Salem Media, it became the first time in the history of the United States of America that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. It had never happened before. Normally they would go to ESPN. Daisy, you can be anything. Always trust God. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, erudite, a good man. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get newspapers and look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, he said, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. Now I'm on 29 podcast platforms, streaming on 4 TV platforms. And Malcolm, as I tell you, you can be anything you want to be. Malcolm one day said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. And shortly after that, now you can find us on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. He's spoken into existence. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always trust God. No weapon formed against you will prosper. I love you with all I got. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, always saying you gotta believe, you gotta believe, you gotta believe, sir. Let's get ready to rumble. I love to say welcome to the show. ESPY nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-way teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. I have this gland in the brain. It's called the pineal gland. The ancients call it the third eye. They say that's how you talk to God. And that's how I do my show, and that's why I scream so loud. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want $500 million! And I mean it tonight, God! I mean it tonight. I want $500 million. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, back in the days, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to chap at reparations now, reparations forever. And then I feel like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee. There was nobody greater than Muhammad Ali. As I always tell you, let's honor President Abraham Lincoln when he says, sign reparations now, sign reparations forever. From sea to shining sea. When's the right thing to do the right thing? It's always time to do the right thing. You got to chap at reparations now. Reparations forever. Say it like your heart, mind, body, and soul believes in it. I said chap at reparations now. Chap at reparations forever. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.